Hello, good morning, and welcome. I'm Ayd Instone, and on this special edition of the Early Show, I'll be putting questions to our headmaster, Mr. Stephen Allen, about online learning that we've been doing over the past half term, and on the concept of the wider opening of school. I'll be putting questions that I've collected from various students, from parents, and from teachers. So, Mr. Allen, thanks for joining us. We've had a whole term, or whole half term of online learning from home. How's it gone? What do we think? What have you heard?
Well, it's been obviously a very unique experience and a very quick learning curve for everyone involved, I think. I've been really impressed with how well pupils, parents and staff have worked with a completely new environment. I've been really heartened by how interactive we've managed to make the experience, by how well parents have worked together with the staff and with their children. And so I think it's been a positive, very positive experience. And hopefully something that we'll look to build on in the future when we get back to school as normal.
All right, so you think there are things that we've done now that we just sort of put together in like high speed, really, that actually is a good way of doing it, and we should carry on doing some of those. Are there any particular things that jump out that you think we could use that?
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously what I've really been interested in is the link we've been able to create between school and home, which is something that's traditionally been done by pupils carrying bags back and forth to school with prep diaries and things. And actually, we've created that communication stream between school and home very quickly, very easily. And actually, it could be a way that we look to use homework and things in the future moving forward, because we've been able to establish such a strong communication channel that I think to use that moving forward only makes sense.
So in some ways, we come kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I suppose that like all inventions and all evolutions, there's normally a reason behind it, and this clearly has been put on us. But I think as actually some things that have come out of it will inform practice moving forward, and so I look forward to exploring that when we can actually talk about it in school, listen to the pupils how they felt it went and what worked and what didn't work,
Yeah.
and look just to create a system moving forward.
Yeah, because I think I've enjoyed the lines of communication, as you said, or the sort of trying to stay connected, and yet it's connected in different ways. So like things like the artwork that that the students have been producing, and the stuff that's been posted on the website, and the various blogs and things. And that guy who does the assemblies, particularly brilliant. I can tell you, I think that was the highlight for me, of course.
Yes, no, I mean, we certainly might look to use him a bit more in the future, I think.
I think maybe give him a pay rise. I think.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
And,
but I think, I mean, one of my big worries was that in this whole experience that people would feel very isolated and sort of on their own, and actually, when work's going out all the time, it's a lonely experience for the pupil and the teacher. And actually, one of the things I've really enjoyed is the positive way we've been able to use social media and the website to share what's happening and see the work of pupils, and obviously that's allowed other pupils to feel connected, and staff. And I know on our message board on Teams, there's a lot of talk about what's coming in from the pupils, and that being able to see it on Instagram and all those great methods of sharing stuff has been really beneficial and made a bit of a community feel to things as well, which I think has been important in this time of isolation.
we've got to acknowledge it's not been easy for various reasons, for family reasons, for the nature of the pandemic itself. And so, like all schools, like all teachers, like all pupils, we want to get back to teaching, but it's not. We know from government advice, from the plans for the easing of lockdown in various ways, it's not going to be straightforward. But it looks like we've got some plan for a staged return. So, and we're talking about part of the primary school first.
Yeah.
What have we decided, and how are we going to go about it?
I mean, obviously, we've in all of this, with it being new, we've very much sort of looked at what the government's saying, the recommendations, the endless paperwork they're sending out to make sure that we can assess that what we can fulfil the criteria and the needs to make sure everyone's safe, because obviously our primary concern in returning to school is the safety of the pupils, the staff, and make sure the experience is a safe one. And so yes, we are, I'm very pleased to say, going to welcome back some of our Year 6s on the 1st of June, which is obviously the first stage of hopefully what will become a steady process of welcoming other groups back in the coming weeks. But obviously we'll wait to see how that goes and what the government say about those first few weeks.
So I wanted to ask you some questions about this, and some of them I know we can't answer yet, and some of them, are not necessarily relevant just yet. They're more generic questions, and especially for the primary school side of things, we were a small school anyway, so having a small number return, a small year group return, it's not as onerous a task as it might be for a larger school. And we've also already had, as some of us know, we've had key worker children in, disadvantaged children in already. So we've already had a group of 5 or more students in. So bringing another bubble in isn't going to stretch our resources.
No.
But there's a few questions that people want to know the answer to. What if I'm in that year group, my child's in a year group to come back, but I don't want to send them back? Is it compulsory?
No, it's definitely not compulsory. And I think, in any communication I've had with the Year 6 parents and then future year groups, it's very clear it's a personal decision. It's something that they're comfortable, happy with and confident with. Obviously, I'm reassuring people that what we're doing is safe and we're practicing all the social distancing measures, but it is completely a personal decision. And I fully appreciate for parents, each different case, they have different factors to consider, and if they don't want them to return, we will continue to support them virtually as we have been doing, and obviously try and make sure that process continues all the way through. But I just think we're trying to balance the need to get back to school with the safety and then everybody's personal and individual circumstances.
Will we have buses?
Initially, we won't have buses. Obviously, pupils will have to be dropped off by parents, which does, I appreciate, create logistical problems. But I think that the main issue with the buses, we couldn't be sure and confident about the social distancing and use of PPE and things like that. And so there's still too many unknowns with that yet. And obviously, we'll look at that in the future.
Do our teachers and our staff and the students, do they have to wear facial coverings? Do they have to wear goggles?
No, we, in line with the government guidance, we're not enforcing PPE on anyone. We fully accept that face masks are a big question at the moment. You see people wearing them out in the street. Obviously, there's conflicting views on whether they're beneficial or not. But we are not. It's not compulsory to wear one. Of course, we would look at that objectively if somebody wishes to, and if they feel that that's one of the criteria that they need to get them back into school, it's certainly something we'd be open to and consider.
So if someone wanted to wear a surgical mask, that would be fine, but we wouldn't necessarily want people wearing full PPE kit and N95 masks because they're not entering a biological hazard zone, are they?
No. I think with all of this, in all the planning, we've tried to stick to this principle that if school life becomes too alien and formulaic and scary, then we wouldn't want that to happen. And so we're trying to balance all of those things, and exactly things like that would start to become very scary.
So I think that's an adequate reading. But then the problem with doing this sort of thing, as I think I've just discovered there, is that is higher than I did it a minute ago, but that's because I'm sat under a studio lights that I wasn't before.
Yeah.
So will we be using these? Will we be testing everybody every 5 minutes?
No, again, I mean, at the moment, we're working in line with the government guidances that temperatures don't need to be taken. Obviously, we have the ability to do so. If we have concerns about a pupil, we'd be able to make sure that's done. And obviously, that's one of the key indicators that we will constantly be looking at and be able to use to decide if there's a problem with a pupil. But essentially, we will be focusing on good hygiene routines and things like that, on arrival, departure, in and out of the classroom, and trying to make sure the environment we operate in is as clean and sanitised as possible.
Right, now we can see immediately how that works for the for the primary school, small group. They've got all the facilities there. That's already those facilities are already in place. But if we were talking about the 15th of June and a possible other year groups coming in, the plans are being worked on now. I know we can't go through all the details, but if we were going to bring in another year group, how will social distancing work for them? Or what size of class? If we could talk about year 10, year 12, there's quite a few of them. Yep. How would that work?
Again, what we're looking carefully at is the recommendation that we have little micro communities where we can sort of retain the purity of each community individually, and therefore ensure that they don't contaminate each other. Obviously, in this school, we're used to small class sizes, and so we'd probably have to arrange small groups, small classes, and make sure that they have a designated classroom and workstation and those sorts of things that will just allow areas of cross-contamination to be kept to a minimum, and obviously with good hygiene routines put in together with that.
All right, so we have a group of 5 or 6 in a room. That's their room.
Yeah.
So they're not mixing with another batch of 5 or 6. They're in there.
No. Yeah, they would remain in the classroom. Obviously, in the outside spaces, we'd be able to allow them some interaction from social distance, appropriate social distancing and things. So it wouldn't hopefully feel too alien that they are.
So we can have breaks.
Yes, they will have breaks, but obviously, again, we'd have to offer some guidance about that, and it would require cooperation from the pupils to be prepared to adhere to the guidelines that we lay down, which hopefully would allow then the school day not to feel completely different. And like I said, everything we're doing really is about offering a safe environment, but a valuable experience that maybe brings an element of normality back to life, which I think young people crave and need at the moment.
Right. So lunches, we pack lunches presumably for the minute for this term anyway.
Yeah.
So when you say bringing back some sort of normality, it sounds like we'll be enforcing some of our school rules, like you sit in your seat. You don't wander off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You have a pen.
Yeah.
Because we won't be able to supply a pen, will we? You've got to bring your own pen.
Yeah.
And your books and whatever. But what happens if little Johnny at the back of the classroom wants to go to the toilet? How's that going to work?
We will certainly, inevitably with children, there's always someone that needs the toilet, and probably at the most inopportune moment. But obviously, with fundamental things like that, we'll have processes that just need to be followed. And again, I suppose never does a pupil ever just stand up and wander out of the classroom and go to the toilet. So obviously, permission would be sought, and there'd be a clear process, and we just have to be careful that we don't have more than one person using the toilet area at a time. And again, it's all about keeping potential cross-contamination down to an absolute minimum, and everything we do would be focused around that.
So what we're hearing is that we're going to try to create a sort of a creative learning environment that gives the government guidelines of some face-to-face contact, some relationship with the material and with the teacher. But what happens if you can't come in? What happens to our year 10s who can't get in for whatever reason, for health reason or practical reason?
Yeah.
They're going to miss out, aren't they?
No. Well, they'll miss out on being in school, but obviously one of the things I'm very conscious of is being a boarding community as well. We've got people who clearly won't be able to return from different countries, and so what we would do is anything we put together in school would not inhibit or have a negative impact on those at home. And so we'll obviously, I'm very conscious of balancing the two very carefully. I think the experience we offer in school will not be a normal lesson timetable. We'd have to amend the timetable to facilitate the two, to make sure that we can work with those at home and we can work with those in school, and make them both as productive and enjoyable as possible.
Right, so the big question is going to be, of course, hopefully parents are not sending in anyone who's ill, but they might not realise. And we've got a child in a class starts coughing, symptoms, the symptoms of persistent dry cough, temperature, feeling ill, and the loss of smell and taste, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we notice that is happening with someone, have we got a plan?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've spent quite a lot of the last few days trying to think through all the scenarios where things could go wrong to make sure that we've got a plan in place to deal with that. I think obviously the onus is largely on the parents not to send pupils in if they've got any concerns about it. Obviously, if somebody becomes ill during the day, we have a clear exit strategy for that person, how we'd accommodate that, how we'd move the class, and how we'd communicate with parents. And so I'm pretty confident that we would be able to deal with that scenario and keep everyone as safe as possible. And most importantly, with all these things, will be the communication home and making everyone aware of the situation, to try and remove any uncertainty and worry and concern of parents, pupils and staff.
What about testing? When does that kick in? How does it work for schools, for teachers and for pupils and for parents?
Yeah, I mean, teachers are key workers, so in theory they're entitled to testing at any time, particularly if they've been going into work. Obviously, pupils are entitled, if they start to feel unwell and have been in school, they're entitled to go and get a test, and actually also everyone else in that class or bubble are also entitled then to get a test. And so obviously they can source that through the NHS website and find out where the nearest testing is available. And that's obviously something we'd encourage at that point of if somebody becomes unwell.
So we're looking at year 6 after half term, then a couple of weeks into term we'll have our plans for year 10 and 12 in some form for this face-to-face contact. That'll take us up to our end of term. We might have some plans for end of term as well, but we'll discuss them later. And then September, we don't know, do we?
I mean, obviously we need to prepare for many different circumstances and look at that now. I think the key is that or everything we're doing at the moment will inform and help us make good decisions about practice in September. Clearly, the world we live in is changing as a result of the last few months. So these few weeks now will inform us moving forward. September, I'm confident we'll be back in school. I think everyone will be back in September. I think, obviously, I think school life might look a little bit different. It might have some different elements, a few changes in routines that will become common practice. I think not just in school but in society. So we are planning. We're looking at our borders and how we can support our borders in returning, particularly if the quarantine remains in place. We're looking at maybe opening up a little bit earlier so that we can allow them to complete quarantine
in the school
before the term starts. And so we're looking at all sorts of possibilities. But with all of these things, we're being guided by the government, and obviously we've got to take what they say, their requirements, regulations, and things like that, and reflect on those, and then implement them in our environment. Which I think we're lucky because we've got the outdoor spaces, and obviously that will become a focal point.
Yeah, I think we've gone through the questions that we've come across that have come in from students and from parents. But if there are any other questions that you have at any time, do contact us. Contact tutor or Mr. Anand or any of us. And but it does sound like we've got plans in place, and it's all about that creativity, using our resources, using the environment we've got. So we can't play football, can we?
Well,
we can't play basketball.
You can't play basketball because it uses your hands.
You can't play catch.
You can play football if you're socially distanced and don't pick the ball up and kick it.
No tackling.
No tackling and no contact. And so there are, I think with everything, routine, structures. I mean, hopefully by September many of this will have reduced. But imminent at this current time, obviously we'll guide pupils on what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate. And I think, again, as you said, the creativity, the sole point of getting pupils back into school is to offer them an experience that's valuable and educationally valuable and creative. And we don't want it to be they're coming into school to sit like a series of robots and not do anything. and all we're doing in everything they will do is balancing the safety, the hygiene, with what's possible and in that environment.
Because we have got that advantage. We're not going to be drawing chalk circles in the playground and saying don't step out of that.
No.
But we can use our woods, we can use our environments around.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, becoming a core part of what we will do is hopefully the weather stays well, which we've been very lucky with, and we'll be able to use the outside for geography, science, to read and things like that. So just again, it's about amending what you do, the experience you offer, and being a bit creative as a teacher as well.
It reminds us what we have got. It's like we were saying at the start with the online technologies have been there for a while.
Yeah.
But it's like anything in life. When you've suddenly forced to use something, you can do marvellous things. And when you're forced to use your creativity, you can do more interesting things.
I'm really looking. I think it's a great opportunity for us again to evaluate a little bit what we do in school and look at new ways of doing things. And with the online, that was forced upon us, but it's become a positive and a useful thing. And I think the staff are very creative and very passionate about delivering the best possible experience. And I look forward to seeing them pupils back in school, and I've no doubt that we'll offer a valuable resource for them to come and learn in.
Mr. Allen, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
If you have any further questions about the wider opening of school or about online learning or any of the issues we've discussed, do get in touch. We'll be back next week when we'll carry on with our interviews and other great stuff, and I'll see you there.